Good day, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. I'm Ras Gilbert, and I want to discuss a little something with you this afternoon or evening, wherever you may be. A piece of information called darkness technology, something that I was introduced to in Mexico in 2006, and a lot of people out there are aware of this. Some people know about a gentleman named Montauk Chia in Thailand. He's got a healing center out there that people visit and are made aware of this practice. But it's something that came into my life in 2006 and a practice that I did in 2011. And I've been meaning for a long time to put something out online to share with anyone who wants a insight from someone who's actually had the experience, because there's a lot of people since the time that I did it that have started talking more about it. I've found some videos on YouTube from people who've had the experience, and I know that there's some groups in Guatemala and I think other parts of South America and Central America and Mexico that are doing these practices. And basically what it is, it's nothing new, it's ancient. It's tied to every mystic tradition, every spiritual system, and at the end of the day, even the religious systems. And what it is a practice of removing yourself from all light, artificial light, sunlight, any type of light that enters into the eyes, comes into our skin, comes into our being, flames, anything. And this can be carried out in a number of different ways. Primarily in the urban environment, what you're going to do is basically darken out a room. And what you're doing is you are removing yourself 100% from all light. So for a period of what I was shown, a minimum of 7 days, basically you do everything you would do in normal life in the dark. And in this, of course, you're confined to a minimal space because it's very hard to find that type of darkness without creating it yourself. The only place you're really going to find that in nature is in a cave or in some sort of cavern system. But you do everything you would do in the dark. You eat in the dark, you use your facilities in the dark, shower, brush your teeth, everything, which means you have to have somebody who's taking care of you. And just to make this as concise as possible, we'll go into other videos in the future where we can elaborate into the actual science and the chemical transitions that happen in the brain. But basically what happens is you go into the dark, and what you're working with at the end of the day is the DMT, or spirit molecule, as a lot of the New Age people call it these days. But you're working with the DMT that naturally occurs in the pineal gland, and you are activating this by not allowing light to enter into your eyes. So, at night when you sleep, close your eyes, you dream, you're in darkness, your lights are off. You have chemicals like serotonin, melatonin, pinoline, and DMT, which work in your brain to create the dream state, which allows you to go into other realms and have these experiences that we call dreams and visions and such. In the dark, however, you are allowing yourself to have these chemicals build in your brain in excess. So each day, every 24-hour period that passes, you're building these chemicals, and being that no light is entering into your eyes, no photon light particles are able to cut through into these chemicals, and they're building in the brain, and they're working with the darkness around you, which you're building dark matter in the room, and essentially you're creating a black hole. You're creating what some would call a portal, but you're entering into a primordial state. And the deeper you go into the darkness, the further along you go. After, like I said, a minimum of 7 days, the DMT starts to kick into your brain. And people who out there who are familiar with DMT, a lot of the younger generation now, they're somehow synthesizing it and smoking it. People are going to South America and having these ayahuasca experiences, which is DMT. But the DMT within your brain is naturally occurring, and it's there already. and we're born with it, and it's something that's a big part of the birthing process, even when we're born, and we can go into that in another time. But what you're doing is, during this period of 7 days, is you are literally climbing and opening up, for lack of a better term, you're opening up dimensional walls, and you're entering into what some call the ancestral realm, the realm of the dead, where ancestral communication and communication with the beyond becomes very easy and accessible on a level where it's just happening. And in the process of this, as you're moving it through the 7 days, day 4, day 5, well, first thing I want to say is the first 2 to 3 days you sleep a lot, which is an essential part of the process. For myself, when I was in, I slept pretty much, I would say, 19 or 20 hours a day for the first 3 days. Once you kick off all that sleep, you're in a waking state now, and this is when everything really starts to happen. The action starts to take place. The physical feeling of being high or having a psychedelic experience starts to come into play, and at a certain point, depending on how your system is, lights start to go off, and lights start to go off in very like strobe light fashion, and they increase and intensify as the time moves forward, as the DMT keeps building and building, and the dark matter keeps building. The lights are going off to where essentially by the end of the experience, you're surrounded by light. But it's a light where if you put your hand in front of you like this, you don't see your hand. And if somebody comes in the room, they still see darkness. But you are seeing light with this eye and these two eyes. And it's all merging together. So you're literally being basked by light in the same way that I'm being basked by the lights around me right now. And what this is translating is like things that are written in the Bible, which out of darkness shineth the light. And we have a lot of these cliches which talk about the light that is found in the darkness. And this is what you're accessing in the dark. This is what you are, it's a lot of the spiritual traditions, like I mentioned earlier, use darkness to access these realms. Within the Ethiopic tradition, we have the holy men, the monks called the Batawe, which are the dreadlock priests, the holy men in Ethiopia who live and function out of the caves. And this is how they are functioning. They're functioning because they know the darkness and they know that life and that world, and so they're able to live the way they do, as they do in the world as we know it, the way they do, because they have the information and the knowledge of the other realms. So this is a practice that I feel is becoming increasingly important for people in the world today, especially people who are in the urban environments, who are looking to access something without taking psychedelic drugs, things like mushrooms, ayahuasca. People who are afraid to take things, entheogens and such, they can access their own psychedelic experience by removing themselves from the light, going into dark. And it's not easy because very few people have 7 days to remove themselves from everyday life, money making, taking care of children, jobs and such. But one thing that I'm advocating right now is to share this information with as many people as possible, so that people can do their own research and start to try and find some balance and some access more information from the realms that we sometimes can't always access here. And it allows one to retreat from the world that we know and recalibrate, reset the system. It's very good for your overall immune system. It's very good for the brain, and in general, it's just a rebirth in a lot of ways. So, again, we can go deeper into it in the future. This is just a quick little video that I wanted to put together and share a little bit of this information so people can go and look further. So, darkness technology. There's a gentleman named Montauk Chia. A lot of people are familiar with him. You can go on his website. He has a PDF file called Darkness Technology, and that PDF file is about 60 to 70 pages long, and that one goes deep into the whole neuron chemical process in the brain. And then, of course, if you go on YouTube, you can find some people who have testimonials. And so I encourage people to research this and look a little further into it, because I feel as we move into the future, this is going to become a very important aspect of human development and evolution. So thank you for your time. Peace.